Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the From Desk to Dynasty podcast. Sitting down with a super exciting guest today, Joe. Really looking forward to hearing all about his experiences, what he's got going on in the business right now, and what he's looking to in the future. So, without further ado, Joe, I will pass it across to yourself for a quick introduction, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show or the podcast. Excited to be one of the first guests on and talk a little bit about it, the recruiting industry and our journey so far. But for folks who don't know me, I'm Joe. I'm the managing partner at Mural Group. It's me and one other managing partner who started the firm about a year ago, and we're started a little bit slow, but we've created a lot of momentum. I'd say in the last like 12 months or so, and excited to share more about that journey.
For sure. No, we can dig right into that today, Joe. But just to, kick us off, could you share a little bit about your journey into recruitment initially and what it was that really drew you towards the industry?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I was studying TV and film, and I got a chance to intern at a TV station down in Nashville, News Channel 5. Big shout out to News Channel 5, best local TV station in Middle Tennessee. And actually the same station that Oprah got her start at, so that was
Wow.
like that was really cool. But the internship allowed me to kind of bounce around the studio and get a chance to work with production, the sound people, sales, sports writers, and I got a chance to sit down with the salespeople one day. They had kind of come into the studio, and they were really friendly, and they were the ones like driving the BMWs and stuff in the parking lot, and which is like really cool. And during one of the sessions that I had with like one of the sound guys, I was asking him a little bit about kind of his journey in the industry and everything, and he was telling me like, "Hey, look, um, you probably are not going to make a lot of money in like TV production." He's like, "You're probably going to come in, make like 30 grand, get a couple percent raise like every year." He was like, "You should really think about like advertising sales." The GM of the station had started there. He was like, she's making, probably $1 million a year. And that kind of sparked the interest. Like you hear those
Yep.
kind of numbers as like somebody who's broken in college and you're like, oh man. So when I went back to school for my senior year, I started looking for sales internships, and I started reaching out to different studios across the country at first, and didn't really get a whole lot of traction there. And then I kind of expanded the scope a little bit and was like, all right, I'll move into like any kind of sales role and, see where that leads to. And I ended up getting an internship at S3. So big firm out, I think in the UK is where it started. And sat on uh, like the sourcing desk there. And I think in my first or second week, I still didn't even really know what recruiting was and how the firm even like made money. But I saw a sales manager come out to the floor and say something like, "Is anybody missing a check for like $20,000?" And these people are making a lot of money.
Me.
Yeah. So I kind of never looked back after that. Had a really good experience at that internship, and then I moved I got a full time offer from another firm in Chicago, and moved over there and did a year and a half there, and then eventually went in house.
Amazing. I mean, really interesting story. I mean, it's sad. Like you're so sold on something, you're studying college in it, and then this guy's like, no, this isn't gonna work. Do this. But I
Yeah,
mean, everything works out for a reason, right? Look at you now.
yeah. I definitely think things kind of work out the way that they should sometimes, and I'm really thankful for somebody kind of giving me the honest truth and
Yep.
during the internship experience, I don't think that you always get that. Like a lot of people will try to paint like a, a rosy picture, and that was not the case. Like I like laid it out pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and you love that. You again, there's definitely a place for that. But yeah, looking at Mural Group now.
Mhm.
What's sort of the vision of the firm? What are we trying to do, and everything around that?
Yeah, so my partner Kyle and I, we started Mural Group together last year, and we both had kind of similar paths where we started off in the agency world, ended up going in house, and and then as in house talent leaders, we had to work with firms, on the outside from time to time, and the experience just wasn't quite. I think we both saw an opportunity for for a firm that specifically focuses on startup recruiting and um, the challenges that come with startup recruiting. So, in my experience, we had headcount needs fluctuate so much, like in startup world. At my company that I was at previously, Viho Technologies, we had raised. I joined when we were about 20 people. First recruiter. We started building the team, and then we raised about $300 million, and we had to go and sprint as fast as possible. And but in that type of world, like there's a lot of whiplash, especially as it pertains to headcount. And so we started building a big in-house recruiting team, and but we still couldn't like match our internal recruiting capacity to the headcount needs that were coming up like every day. But we didn't want to like over hire for the recruiting team because obviously you don't want to end up having to like lay people off later. So we did work with a couple of firms that were like um, more like embedded RPO type like recruiting. But everyone wanted us to like lock into like a long term contract. It was super expensive, and quite frankly, like the recruiters were fine, probably in the context of like most companies, but they didn't have like the nitty gritty startup like
Yep.
recruiting experience. And so when I met uh, Kyle Rubatino, he had a very similar experience. He was the first recruiter at Six Sense, um, joined when they were like $100 million, $100 million valuation. They went on to raise a ton of money and multi-billion-dollar company. And eventually he moved into like the head of recruiting role, leading a massive team. And he had to do the same thing, augment with like outside firms. And me and him, when we met, like that was like one of the biggest things that we connected on was just this like gap in the market for like expert startup recruiters and a firm that is willing to be flexible for the client. Like if the client needs contingent, the firm will do that. If the client needs RPO, the firm will do that. Most firms don't. They will like just lock into the thing that they do, and so that's what we're building now. And we found a lot of success so far. We've quickly scaled. I'd say our first 4 months were really hard, and then we kind of broke through, and the clients started coming in. And by the end of the year, we were doing $100,000 in monthly revenue, and
Amazing.
we've gone way beyond that at this point.
Amazing. And I think that speaks volumes to having a customer centric system and process. I mean, without that, you might not have, been able to grow and scale so quickly. So amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was, being service oriented and very like client focused and like empathetic towards the client, I think is one of our differentiators. And I think it's because we've been the client
Yep.
before. Yeah.
Exactly. Super interesting. So I know you mentioned, those first 4 months. were a little bit hard, challenging. What were the biggest challenges you faced? Obviously, brand new firm, probably little brand recognition, but obviously two amazing leaders. What were the biggest challenges you faced, and then what do you think was the turning point, at that 4 month mark that allows you to really start to acquire more clients and grow to where you're at today?
Yeah, I think the start was, well, I mean, I think probably this last like couple of years is probably maybe not like the best time to like start a recruiting company. Like, I mean, probably the best time in recent memory would have been like COVID or like, coming out of the COVID wave. But so I think we were kind of starting at like, I think we're kind of at the tail end of the tech layoffs, hopefully, maybe. But I think that was a part of it. I think also we are good at recruiting, but we are not like necessarily like sales people, and we had to kind of put that hat back on.
Yeah.
We you know took a long time for us to figure out like what is our sales motion, what mix of channels do we use, do we put time into like LinkedIn content. So I would say like sales was probably one of the bigger challenges. I think all of the back end like operations admin stuff was also kind of hard because you just don't know what you don't know until you start like pulling the string, and all of a sudden it's like never ending.
Yeah.
But the big turning point was one, me and Kyle partnering together, I think for sure. Because I had started the firm kind of right after I had gotten laid off from my last company, and I got a severance package, and I figured this is the best time to do this, and I've been wanting to do it for a long time. And things didn't really start, turning, I would say, really positive until me and Kyle decided to partner together. And I think there's something about just the confidence that you have in like being able to call somebody up and
Yep.
say, is this a good idea? And then they say, yes, or yes, and, or, actually, I don't know. So I think that was huge, having a partner, um, because it takes the workload off of each of
Yep.
us, but it also just like, two heads are better than one. And then we both have, I'd say, really good reputations. I think we care deeply about our reputation. I think you'll see that in how we partner with other firms, but I think we've been very thoughtful about building a good reputation and always trying to do what's right throughout our careers. And I think that that's kind of paid off, 10 years later. And so our first handful of clients were like referrals, word of mouth, from hiring managers that we worked with before. And then once we kind of started pushing the gas on like the email sequencing and the biz dev, we landed like a pretty crazy, awesome, good client out of nowhere to like a cold email. And, all it takes is like one to create the momentum, and then you can
Yep.
kind of like start to invest in other things that make the business go faster.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. As I say, it's all about momentum. Once you get it definitely compounds. So
Mm.
yeah, just on that, I mean, you're clearly building something super amazing here, Joe. And I am always fascinated to understand, how successful leaders, founders do think about the future. So I guess looking ahead over the next, say, 12, 24 months, what are the biggest growth priorities for Mural Group?
Yeah. So we, so far, what we've kind of focused on is venture-backed tech and like private equity companies, um, either retained or contingent search or RPO or like embedded model or some hybrid of all of those things. And I think we've had some success there. What I'm really excited about is actually later this month in May, we are going to launch our industrial staffing vertical, which I am super excited about. So we're going to focus on skilled trades, manufacturing, food and beverage, that type of talent, and mostly focus on like temporary services, but we'll also do some contingent and retained there. And the reason why I'm so like pumped up about it is because if you think about like that industry from the recruiting perspective, it's really dominated by like a handful of really big firms. And then the rest of the market is like pretty fragmented with probably firms like ours or other smaller boutique players. And I think we have an opportunity to take some of the best practices of like venture backed startup recruiting at scale and apply them to an industry that is probably a little bit less familiar with that style of recruiting and that flavor, but I think can really benefit that industry when it comes to like speed of hiring, quality of hire, and just offer them like an overall service that's going to be like really white glove. So I can't wait. I think it's going to be a monster division of the company. I think it could very well be like the primary vertical within Mural. We will definitely still do like tech and like venture backed companies, but the industrial staffing vertical is super exciting, and it's kind of an industry that's like close to both Kyle and I's like heart. Kyle's has family in like the construction industry, and I come from like a small town in Tennessee that is mostly like industrial type jobs. So yeah, we're pumped.
As you should be, my friend, as you should be. That was going to be my question. Like, what was it that drew you to the industry? But I think you've answered that there, and I think you touched upon a very good point. It's like, and it's something we always try and do as well. Bring new world, almost digital age techniques and strategies into more old school, traditional type processes. So
Mhm.
I think that's really going to be huge for you.
Yeah.
Pardon me. As we look to grow that division, what's I'm sure you've got a strategy behind it, and not to give too much away, but what's the main strategy to, like you did initially with the VC and everything like that? What's the strategy to really hit the ground running there?
So all of the infrastructure that you need, like to have in place ahead of time, I think we've kind of covered those bases. And what I mean by that is like, if you're gonna employ 50 to 100 like contract folks like in these types of jobs, you need the biggest differentiator I think that you can have as a company is being able to provide a great service, like not only to the client but also to the candidates who are going to work at the end client. So getting all of the infrastructure in place to make sure that we can pay them on a weekly basis, we can we can offer like healthcare, and we're excited to maybe not right from the get go, but I think eventually, and it won't be too far in the future, offer some really cool benefits that you would probably not normally get in that industry that are probably more like tech oriented type of benefits. I'm talking like, you know, a financial wellness platform type tool or something like that. So I think getting those things in place will hopefully allow us to hit the ground running. We sat down for, I don't know, a week or so, built out like, the forecasting model, to understand, how much cash do we need to have on hand? What is it going to look like if we hire 20 people in like the first month? Um, do we need funding options? Uh, you know, there's a lot that goes into it, and there's probably a lot that we haven't even like that we don't even know about yet. But I think we have all of the pillars in place, and then the big pillar is we are really excited to we're bringing on an incredible sales leader who has deep experience in this industry, who's really going to drive the ship, and I'm excited to announce who that is when when we're ready to make that announcement.
For sure. No, I'll be keeping my eye out for it. So yeah, super, super excited for yourself, Kyle in the business right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you could put your finger on it, Joe, over the last year, if there was one specific thing that, if you could fix it or improve it, it would have the biggest impact on your firm's growth. Would you be able to put your finger on that, or not too sure?
Um, well, I would say probably something. Um, if we could have figured out some of the things around the sales motion that we've figured out since then, a little bit earlier on, um, I mean, I think we would have had a huge head start.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Um, that's probably the number one thing. Um, Outside of that, I think it's probably all of the like business operations things that make our team faster today, and that we'll continue to invest in. So having like uh, resources that are just available and built so our team can go and run. I mean, and what I mean by that is like something as simple as like a contract template for a like specific type of engagement that we would take on. We had to build all that stuff like as we
Yeah.
went on. Having Notion, which is like, a really great tool, but to document, um, templates for like intake sessions. Um, we even can use it as like an ATS a little bit, or to like store like really high quality candidates, information. Um, all of those things, I would say, like if we had enough time and money, like in the beginning, to just invest in all of that, I think we would have moved, really fast.
Yep. And I think I would agree. I use Notion quite a lot myself. Super good tool. Um, on that topic, in terms of technology and things like this, I know AI, there's a big sort of, I guess, buzz around it in the recruitment industry right now. Are you utilizing anything from that side of things, or not really diving too deep into that at the moment?
Yeah, we definitely are. I think probably I think most recruiting companies probably are. It seems like it's more of a common trend amongst like the firms like ours that are like, smaller, boutique, probably like
Yeah.
more tech forward, more nimble. They can implement things and test things a lot faster. I'm curious to see like what some of the bigger firms are doing out there, because they obviously have like a lot of money to invest in internal technology. But we definitely use AI. I think like the low hanging fruit tools around like note takers and um, like sequencing. Um, I'm talking more probably like automation type tools.
Yep.
Um, the thing that we haven't done a ton of is like the AI writing your email sequence type stuff. Like I still think that lower volume outreach with highly personalized messaging yields more conversions than like mass outreach AI messaging until the AI messaging is just like a little bit more dialed in. It's still not quite there yet. And then we use some AI tools with regards to sourcing as well, but you know, nothing too crazy.
100%. I think there's a lot of noise out there, so it can sometimes be hard to, cut through that on what you should pick and choose. But no, I think some of the ones you've mentioned there, invaluable. Again, and it's automating processes and making your life easier. So, you know, a robot can do the type of work that they're
Yeah,
good at doing, as opposed to something that a human has to do.
yeah.
So,
What have you heard? Any like uh, specific tool have you heard when you've like talked to people about like what they're using?
nope, nothing too crazy. In my opinion, I think the uptake is slower than you think.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of people, and it's down to the noise and the amount of products and services there is out there, is what my opinion on it. But yeah, from the conversations that I've been having, it's a case of, yeah, we want to use it, we know we should, but we don't really know how. That's sort of the common theme that I get in these conversations, and people are using, you know, ChatGPT here or there. Everyone's using a note taker, but in terms of actually implementing, I guess, more robust systems around it, I think the uptake's been a little bit slower.
Yeah, I think there's two companies that I think are really exciting that have an opportunity to do some really cool stuff with AI that I'm familiar with. I think one is that's probably pretty well known as Ashby. We just did a demo with them,
Nice.
and we'll probably get there. We'll probably sign a contract. It's a pretty impressive ATS, but some of the AI stuff that they're doing, um, I was like pretty impressed with like some of that. Like they have a app review feature that's like AI driven that seems like it will just really speed up the process of app review.
Yep.
Um, and then another company that's really cool, I think has a really awesome like AI opportunity is MetaView. Really great founders and ex Uber founders,
Wow.
so I gotta give a shout out. But and really interesting product. And I think like what they're building now and the potential use of AI in their like product roadmap could be super interesting. So yeah, check out those two companies if for the listeners out there.
100%. No, thank you for sharing. Um, but cool. Yeah, moving on, and I know you're sort of touching upon a few of the things that you're exploring right now, but since the inception of the business, and I'm sure there's many, are there any strategies that you have sort of tried in the last year that you did find interesting? Even if it maybe didn't quite pan out the way that you'd hoped.
Hmm. Some interesting strategies. I think, well, one interesting strategy or theme that we've noticed recently is we get more traction and inbound when we push more content to LinkedIn.
Yep.
Like we could send like 1,000 email sequences a week and get like no responses. Or we'll get responses, but it'll be like, no, not right now. But pushing LinkedIn to content or pushing content to LinkedIn, um, I wish it was something that we invested in a little bit earlier and kind of iterated on like the sales strategy a little bit more because that has yielded incredible results, I'd say.
Amazing. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Personal brand, business brand, um, it all ties into it. So, no, definitely a good point there. Um, and yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit of a harder one, but if you could test out one idea in the business, Joe, with absolutely no risk whatsoever, what would you love to try?
I would love to. Um, so, in the recruiting industry, I don't think it's a secret that uh, like maybe the best talent doesn't go into recruiting, you know? The best talent probably goes into like investment banking, you know, consulting, yeah,
Yep.
like engineering, right? And I would love to find a way to compete for that talent that would normally go to like Goldman Sachs or like McKinsey. And instead of going there, come to Mural. And if we can get more of that type of talent into our industry, I think you'll see our industry uh, really evolve in a really cool way. Um, we just don't have a ton of that like type of like raw intellectual horsepower that moves into our industry. Like it's
Yep.
a lot of like people who are like, man, I'm going to film school, and maybe I'm not the next Steven Spielberg. I need to figure something out. But that would be something that I would love to do if we could have like, if we had like $4 or $5 million and we could just go hire a bunch of McKinsey consultants and like Goldman Sachs investment bankers and just like say like, hey, this is what our business does. Now go and like figure out how to do it better.
Yep.
That would be cool.
That would be very cool. That
Yeah.
would be very. I mean, I think that's actually the best one I've heard from these conversations.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that would be super, super interesting. Um, but yeah, Joe, just sort of coming to a bit of a close here. As your journey, even in employment before becoming a founder, like what really has been the most rewarding part of that for you, sort of all the way through your career?
Yeah. Like from not just like the founder and like the mural experience, but I mean, I am super thankful for like I mean every role that I was offered, I'm really thankful for because I think everything had led to something that I didn't expect and really changed my life. I mean, from like going to S3 and being exposed to the recruiting industry that I had no idea about, that I would eventually make my career. Then moving on to my next company, Mondo, and getting really great experience there, and setting myself up for, you know, being considered for like an opportunity at Uber. And I think Uber was really the life changer for me. Like that's a stamp on the resume that has opened a lot of doors for me. And it's kind of like one of those things where it's like you it doesn't really matter if you're actually good or you're not good, but you have the stamp, so
Yep.
people just assume you're good. you
Yep.
know. But that was probably the biggest life changer for me because not only did I learn how to get really good at recruiting and get really good at uh, managing stakeholders and building processes and all those kind of things, I got to learn from some amazing operators who would go on to be founders and CEOs and lead venture firms and things like that. And they not only taught me a ton, but they've also been people that I've kept up with over the years and have been very helpful in my career and now in my business. And and then when getting the opportunity to go to Viho and be the first recruiter at a company that was like 20 people that scaled to 1,000 people and became a unicorn and work really closely with the founders over there. Um, I mean, all of those experiences, I'm like super thankful for, and wake up every day and like you know kind of wonder why. but and then everything is kind of led up now to Mural, and all of those experiences we're using to build the firm that we wish we could have worked with, uh, worked at early in our career, and worked with as talent leaders, later in our career. And we're excited about what we're building today for sure.
Amazing. Amazing. No, a super, Super impressive story. Joe, thank you so much for coming on, my friend. Really appreciate your time, sharing your insights, all your experiences, and Mural Group as well, which is super exciting. You know, where can people find yourself? Where can people find the business?
Yeah, I'm probably like LinkedIn. I think is a great. I'm pretty active on there. Joe Walsh, Mural Group, and Kyle Rubatino is my partner. And then our website is themuralgroup.com. You can check out, some of the a little bit more about like what we do, and we'll probably have some case studies and whatnot that we're uploading here pretty soon. And we'll have an additional page outlining the you know industrial staffing division here pretty soon. So check that out. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
No problem.
Great conversation, and yeah, next time you'll have to have Kyle on, and he can share a little bit about his story as well.
For sure. I would love to. No, thank you again, Joe. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yep, thanks.
Thank
Cheers.
you.